to net.
Does anyone have any announcements?
I got one for Bill Engelke when he gets online.
He's traveling for AMSA, I think, this week. I don't believe he'll be on.
Oh, okay. I was just going to give him a heads up. He's got about till the mid to end of March to get all of the Grape 2 hard drives swapped out because they're all going to be filling up to the, overfilling by then. They'll be running for a year. So all the Grape 2 systems need their hard drives replaced within the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So just want to bring that back on. It's probably dropped off his radar.
I could talk about that a little more. That's possible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Rizzo and I have been discussing it a little bit over the past week. You mind if I share my screen?
Sure.
Let's see. Yeah.
Kung, you look like you're in an anechoic chamber.
Yeah, we have a recording room here on
Oh,
campus.
okay. So you are.
Taking advantage of it.
Where are you, Kung?
I'm in the CTLE.
Oh,
Yeah, they have
okay.
a recording. Are you able to see this roadmap file?
Yes.
Yeah, so Rosa Reserve asked me to think a little bit about how this drive swap's gonna happen. So there's like essentially two important phases, phase A and phase B. But in phase A, there are two simultaneous I guess subphase. So the first one is the remote upload important data. So this way, when we do the drive swap, if there's any any hiccups, we don't lose any of these important dates, which are the eclipse 2024 and the Gannon storm. So we want to make sure that these data are up on the server before we actually do the drive shipping. So that includes me finishing this CSV to DRF conversion program. It's mostly finished. That's just very one small part of the metadata that's not being preserved in the DRF that I'm generating. So I need to finish that part first. And then I will work with Bill Engelke here to make sure that the connection between each node can make a connection to Alabama server and upload these data. And then after that, with the help of John Gibbons and Bill Blackwell, we'll upload this code here, CSV to DRF, and also the code that set up the uploading connection to Alabama server to each of these nodes, and we will begin performing this remote upload. And at the same time that this phase A1 is going on, we will also be doing the drive prepping. So we will basically count how many drives we need and place that order and send those drives to each of the station. And after both of these A1 and A2 are done, then each station can then perform the swap and send the old drive to University of Alabama. And then they will do these conversion on the mass scale to the entire everything that we've collected from beginning to end, and also generate the spectrogram as well on the server. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Well, it's well in hand.
I think that's really good, Kung. I think the plans, I really like it. I want to talk a little bit more about the logistics of the physical drive prep and the drive swap, because it looks like your remote upload, it looks like you have the correct people tasked to be doing that. And I think that's well in hand. For the physical drive prep and drive swap, I think we want to make sure again, we task the correct people and have them do that. Because I think you, Kung, probably don't need to be involved in the physical drive prep and swap at all. Let me first ask, what needs to be done for the drive prep? Do they need to be formatted at all?
Yes, it need to be formatted to, I believe it's ext4 partition, and has to be given a drive label of G2 data.
Mhm.
We've got a we've got
Who's the person that's best positioned to be able to do that task?
we were doing it on the Raspberry Pi itself, and
Uh-huh.
it was pretty straightforward because all the utilities are there, and then Bill Blackwell has a thing written up how to do it.
Okay. So is that something that would be good for case people to do? Like one way we could do it is I could
Well,
order.
the problem is we shipping the drives. If you keep shipping drives all over the place, we're exposing them to damage
Right.
unless you go in solid state.
So are we expecting to ship blank hard drives to people operating the nodes and expecting them to do the formatting themselves? Or are we sending them something that is supposedly formatted and running and ready?
I think it should be the latter because I think the former is asking for trouble because not
Right.
everybody's at that level to be able to do that kind of stuff when something goes screwy with Linux. They mistype something. Also, we're thinking about we have rethought and are probably going to redeploy a different way of mounting the hard drive so it's not part of the file system when it boots.
Right.
We're going to have it show up in the /media directory, and then we're going to map it to where we want it. And I have to work with Bill Blackwell on getting that implemented because we have to change the FS tab file for the mount, and then we have to do a remapping, and then when we plug it in, it should automatically load. And it shouldn't.
I'm kind of thinking, John, would prepping these hard drives be an appropriate job for you to be doing? Or do you have students that you would supervise doing this?
Well, there's only going to be most 32 drives, so it's not a horrific task. It's probably a couple hours worth of work.
Yeah. But you have to know what you're doing.
You have to know what you're doing.
And
Being I
I think
did the first set.
I think that's where I'm going with this. It's only a couple hour job for someone who knows what they're doing. And it's going to be a 20-hour job for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. And then the person who knows what they're going to do has to
But
spend
we end up doing it anyway.
10 hours fixing it. So I mean, I think the people who could do it, I think you could do it, and I think Kung could probably do it too, but I really want Kung to focus on making sure he
One
you know, he
person
has,
do it. Once you're set up, it's just plug and chug. So
yeah,
30 drives is or 32 drives isn't that bad.
right. And Kung has this timeline where he has
Oh,
to
he's
get
got a lot more work on
yeah,
his plate, so he should not be doing that.
right. That's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering.
I am going to need some help with the shipping stuff, so I might lean on Rachel.
Okay.
So, but between the two of us, I think we can probably get that job done. And then when I get Bill Blackwell in and get the modifications pushed out, because it's going to require a reboot of the system. But he's done that, I think, for a couple other people already for the remapping, so that if the drive controller isn't see, the problem we're having is the drive controller isn't seen by the operating system on boot sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not so much a timing thing, it's a timing thing with the way the thing sequences, and it's kind of random whether it makes it or not.
Yeah.
The way we're thinking about doing it is you plug it in and it comes up as a media drive that's not part of the operating system, but gets remapped, but it has to be there for the remapping to take place. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to have some stuff to work out on that one, but I think we can figure that out. But at least
Yeah. So
not prevent the system from booting.
okay. So I think the thing to do, I think I have sufficient funds available in my grant over here to pay for the hard drives.
Okay.
So so if you want to work with, I guess Gary's the person who's been keeping track of who has these things, or do you have that list?
Yeah, I've got all that.
So if you're able to, if you can send John, if you send Salisa a list of what kind of hard drive and how many hard drives you want and that sort of stuff, I can work with Salisa to get that shipped to you.
One point of logistics, send them with a label,
Yes.
shipping label.
Also, we're going to label the drive itself. Because when we get them back, we're going to need the node numbers put on there, either written in Sharpie or a sticker or a label or something. So when we get them all back, we know what they are without having to power them up.
And then the question as to where there's another question is where do they ship the old ones back to? And I'm actually thinking that
Probably
they should
UA.
probably, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They probably go to Bill Engelke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I say,
Have
be
to
sure
get-
they have an actual shipping label
And they're going to want a good
to
shipping
send them where you
container.
want them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the container is going to be important so that you can drop it on the concrete and not damage it.
Can you do it in such a way that they can reuse the same shipping container that you shipped the first hard drive out in?
Exactly what I was thinking, but the way they usually ship is a bulk quantity in a big box. At least that's the way I got the original ones. They were all in foam, but it was in a box and you couldn't separate them.
Yeah,
Right,
but
so
you are
then
going to
you'd
have
have
to
to-
ship them individually, so the
Individually.
Yes.
packaging should be there.
Yep. Yep. So that's going to have to get figured out. I'm going to need help with that too. I'm not quite sure who or how to do that.
I think we just go to FedEx and find the most appropriate box size. And get 32 of them. Possibly.
The foam around them is the important part. We want that closed cell foam, so I'm not sure how we handle that. We'll have to work the logistics, excuse me, of that out.
It probably would increase the cost, but would working with the manufacturer to have a shipping container for each drive be a reasonable?
Getting
Thanks.
hold of Western Digital or whoever we were getting the drives from, it's always been through the web, and I've never seen a path to be able to talk to them about it. So that's another.
Do they come in individual packaging or are they going to be in a bulk
When you
package?
buy them that way, you get a bulk packaging.
Yeah, so, well,
We could
it
try.
really
and
is just a
request
matter
them.
of having enough foam in a large enough box.
Yeah, well, the foam's got to
bubble wrap or
encapsulate the
whatever.
drive. And you have to static protect it. So, you got a couple of things you're working with.
Yeah. Well, if you buy the static, the anti
Yeah, the red stuff is
Just
anti-static
wrap enough of it
creation, but
around.
it's not anti-static protection. It won't generate it, but it won't protect it.
Yeah. Well, if you put the drive in a anti-static bag and then
Yeah.
wrap it in the
And I
anti-static
think
bubble wrap,
that's the way
it'll be
they
safe.
got shipped, so we could probably use the old bag.
right?
Sounds like a derogatory term. Let's use the old bag.
You trying to be politically correct? Yeah, that's not like you.
Sorry, I had a lapse there. I won't let it happen again.
Well, John and Rachel, if you end up needing a pair of hands to help you do some of this stuff when the time comes, let me know.
Okay.
I have one question, which is for generating the return shipping labels to go to Alabama. Is Scranton handling that, or do I need to talk to Dr. Zorman?
That is a really good question. I think if it's a matter of money, I think Scranton can handle the shipping costs. But as a matter of logistics, I'm not sure what's easiest. So maybe chat with Dr. Zorman about it too. And if you do have to have Scranton generate shipping labels, I think you'll have to work with Salisa. And I don't know logistically how that's going to work out the best.
Yeah, she has access to a FedEx account. I think that's the way to do it.
Okay.
So again, we'll have to work out the logistics and figure it out.
Yeah. I think the funding is available here on the Scranton side to be able to cover this.
Okay.
Okay. Just make that. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on that? All right. Dr. Frizzell, did you want to follow up on last week on the discussion for the new scope of the work?
Sure, we can do that. I think Chris, you mean the new scope of this meeting where it's now going to be the
Yeah.
okay, yes. So as I announced last week, we're going to be rebranding this Telecon to have a broader purpose. It's going to be the Hamside Personal Space Weather Station Operations Telecon. So it's going to include not just the grapes, but also the Whisper Demon grapes and the magnetometers and the VLF. And this is in this is also in part due to the new DAISY 2 funding that we have. So this supports the new grant. So we're basically transitioning from the GREEP 2 grant over to the new DAISY 2 grant. And I see Christina is on. Christina, are you actually there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Christina. I'd like to introduce Dr. Christina Collins, KD8OXT. She is the Chief Operations Scientist, so you can remove the 2 question marks.
Question about her presentation. I don't like to volunteer somebody else her presentation, but we had discussed maybe doing that.
Yes.
Go.
Well, maybe I'll let Christina introduce herself anyway. And I'm sure most people know her already, but Christina, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, let's see. Yes, I think people, most people here probably do know me. I did my dissertation work on the grape one. And I've been organizing several things for HamSci conferences over the past couple of years. But I'm back to actually being funded on this project. And the tasks that I've set relate to putting things into the quarterly newsletter and kind of keeping tabs on who's running all of the stations. So I'm looking forward to working with Gary and with Bill. And Gary, and I don't know if Bill's on yet. I'd like to get a meeting scheduled with you guys soon so that we can kind of work out our our schedule for this over the basically next 4 years. Of just making sure that we have a data record of who all the stations are, getting all of the lists straightened out, partly because we want to keep all of the data organized, and also partly because I think that it'll be a valuable record for people who are kind of doing the meta study of it as a citizen science project in the future, looking at, which stations stuck around, who repair their stations, what causes people to join, what causes people to drop out, and what we can do as an organizing group to keep the network going. So that's kind of the main thing that's on my list. The other thing that I want to do is work on the software that relates to the personal space weather station, make sure we've got a really good Python package so that people can easily access the data and incorporate those into their workflows. So those are kind of my goals, and looking forward to working more closely with everybody again.
Cool.
Thanks, Christina. That sounds wonderful. I'm really glad you're on the project. Last week we were saying that we think what we'd like to do is we'd like to have a presentation from you and a presentation from Bill Engelke in the next few months or something, weeks, I don't know, but relatively soon. But basically outlining what your role is and how things are going to work. So what you're going to do, what your role is, how you're going to run things, what you think you're going to change, and give that presentation to this telecon and be able to take input from people as to how they see your role, and we can have a discussion to make sure we're all happy with how everything's going.
Sounds good. I'll need to get it pinned down with Gary and Bill in the small group first. But once we've had that discussion and kind of worked out our plans, I think we can basically build out a schedule, and then it'll pretty much be the same type of stuff.
That sounds perfect.
So once we've sorted that out, I'll look forward to updating this group.
That sounds really good. Thank you so much, Christina.
Okay, did we want to pick a presumptive date for either presentation to give people a heads up?
I'll leave that up to Christina and Bill and Gary. So first of all, I know that Bill is out today because he's helping his son move, I think, in Detroit. So he's not back until tomorrow. So I think the timeline for this is, sometime in the next 3 months. It'd be wonderful to have it. One potential timeline is to have it before the HamSci workshop, which of course is within the next month. And then you're able to actually give the presentation again at the HamSci workshop. So that I think that would be the ideal. So the ideal thing is you'd be able to actually give a presentation at the HamSci workshop about this, but you give it here first as a kind of dry run and to be able to get community input before the HamSci workshop. So if that schedule is workable, that would be ideal. If that's not workable, sometime this semester would be great.
Okay, maybe
Let's hold off on setting specific dates for now.
I was gonna say I can check in with you later, and I think
and I think either can work very well. We have plenty to talk about. Just making sure the current Grape 2 data is getting to where it's going and kind of getting other things rolling. So, and also, Christina, don't feel like, if you want to have time to informally talk about things before you give a whole formal presentation, feel free to use discussion time on here to talk about whatever you think you need to talk about.
Okay. And let's just okay. Any updates on the antenna project? Should check if Rob is here first. Actually, I think not. So that would be.
Yeah, Michael Howen would also be one to ask on that, but he usually comes in on the Monday night one.
Okay, because I don't see him on the list for participants, but
well, it says we'll be working with Michael. That's Michael.
No. On the
but attendees.
yeah,
he's not on the call. If that's what you mean.
there's a list of like it pops out on the side screen, says participants, and there's a list. Yeah. Okay. In which case we'll just move on. Do you want to have any other questions, comments,
Yeah,
concerns?
just there is action happening in the antenna project. And Michael is the primary evaluator. He's got a number of the different antenna options running. He has the DX engineering. He has the single antenna, as it's being called, which is a vertical center fed dipole, and then a couple of options for loops. And then he's comparing it to a large loop antenna, I think, that he has. The problem with the single antenna looks like it's a good antenna, but it is a very tall antenna. So that I think it's still reasonable to look for options to offer people. It's like 23 feet high or something.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we said we'd have gold standard stations for this Daisy 2 deployment. And we can still do that, but you know, maybe we do have a couple of different antenna options, because I think this new antenna sounds very promising in terms of performance, but it also sounds like it has issues regarding being quite tall, much taller than the DX engineering one. Secondly, it is, you know, not commercially available, so it requires a certain amount of additional work in terms of both the participant and for us to support it. So it might be reasonable to work with the individual host stations, and you know, if there's someone who has a lot of land, isn't scared of tall antennas, has more engineering experience, maybe we let them use the new antenna. And if you have someone who's more like, no, I just want something that's plug and play, I don't have the time or the interest in trying to maintain it quite as much, we give them the commercial DX engineering option.
That sounds like a very reasonable approach, because you can only, I guess you would say, burden the host so much. There's going to be a range of interest and people that have time to spend. So that really sounds good.
And one thing that I think this project has really benefited from has actually been the diversity of hardware. You know, it can go two ways. If your hardware is too diverse, you can't really make any good scientific conclusions from it. But at the same time, if you're only deploying one type of hardware in one platform and something goes wrong with it, you also have a single point of failure. So the fact that we've had, you know, we have essentially like three different kind of standard versions of grapes, and we have the Whisper Demon. So we do have some standardized hardware, but having those different combinations of these things distributed throughout the world has really allowed us to get different types of data back at different times, and it's been helpful. So I think similarly, if you know, we were to distribute some of the kind of well-known, tried and true commercial antennas to some and allow for some experimentation with others, if there's any problem with a particular design, we'll see it more by having more of them out in the field, but we'll also have another design that hopefully is working.
A great example of that, you know, I had a power failure last month with an ice storm, and my grape DRF went offline, and it took a month to get it debugged and get it talking to the hard drive again. But the grape FL Digi chugged along just fine throughout that whole period.
Yep.
you know, and then there's other situations where you got people that live in HOAs and I gotta hide all my antennas. Yeah, so my 9 neighbors can't see them because they'll rat me out in a second.
Yeah.
The bird feeder.
Now the bear gets the barn feeder.
Actually, flagpoles work really well.
Yeah, yeah, that's a non-starter with my wife.
Oh, oops.
That spring?
No, actually, what's worked real well is I got some of that DX Engineering, that stealth antenna wire that's so thin you can't even see it. And I put a pole up in my trees in the backyard and run an end fed, and it's basically invisible for more than about 10 feet away. It's kind of amazing. Works very well. That's all.
Take it that would be low power.
Yeah, it's only 100 watts.
Yeah, well, that's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, a kilowatt would probably melt it.
Yeah, it would glow for an instant.
Yeah, start the tree on fire.
Plasma antenna.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
What are we hearing from the Antarctic about the interference?
On the Dartmouth project?
Yes.
Interesting question. We were able to get a hold of someone who was a ham working with the ice cube experiment, which is a neutrino telescope. Uses
Yeah.
the ice as to detect neutrinos. He got on the air and found that he could actually hear this 2.48 megahertz. So it does not seem to be being generated by our system. But that's all we know so far. It's really hard to get anyone to do anything down there right now.
Somebody in one of the offices has a bad Wi-Fi router
Possible.
at 2.4.
Yeah, well, my first thought was somebody's running a power line on Ethernet over power line. But yeah, the interesting this thing, this interference, it's very strong. It came on intermittently during the fall, and then at some point, I think in November, it's come on full time. And
Is that a 2.48
there is
megahertz or 2.48 gigahertz?
megahertz,
Ugh,
HF, right
wow.
in the middle of our
Yeah.
band of interest, or actually it's the top end. We're looking at auroral kilometric radiation, which is a bit below that, but it's swamping one of the channels of our antenna. We have 2 crossed loops, 20-foot on a side loop, so very large, very sensitive, and it's a very strong signal, and it's blocking on one channel.
Is it wideband? How wide
No,
is?
it's narrow band. It has some modulation, but we're not able to determine exactly what.
What about a notch filter?
No, not practical. The preamp is out on the antenna, and it is buried under several feet of snow at this point.
Well, is it the preamp that's overloading?
Yes.
So David,
Better preamp.
have you been able to do anything like distance from or source or triangulation or anything on it?
No, no, we can't. Now that's an interesting point, because if we were if we had both channels working, it's a crossed loop, so we could get a rough direction off of it. but it's so loud on one channel that it's just overloading it and we get no signal through.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
And it's not that the channel has failed, because when the signal is not there, it receives fine. So there's not a whole lot we can do out there. Yes, if we had access to it, it very easily could put notch filters on it. Because it's actually a
But-
bit outside of any of what we're interested in.
It almost seems to me like it must be local if it's generating such a strong signal.
Yes, that's my thought. We're trying to get the ear of, well, we have the ear of someone who knows comms, but
Does-
they're at McMurdo.
Does anybody have a portable receiver that you could walk around with at that frequency?
Yeah,
You
that's
could
a,
almost make one with a diode. You know, there's this crystal set, might not be all you
well,
need.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think the technician.
There's a thing called the Fox Finder.
Yeah,
Oh
but you have
yeah,
to
I know,
consider where
but
it's
That
located.
could
we're
be.
talking South Pole here.
Yeah, you just don't walk around up there or down there.
Well,
Well, you can walk around, but you don't just build things out of.
I'll
Yeah.
send them a kit. How
Yeah.
long would
It's
it take
very
to get
difficult
there?
to get anything there. It has
Yeah,
to be
I'm
something that's
sure.
already there.
Sure, I'm sure.
We're lucky that yeah, someone there's a TS 480, Kenwood TS 480 that this one person was able to use as a general coverage receiver and did
A, s- a
hear the
small
signal,
loop.
though we're not really clear what he was hearing.
If you've got a large signal, a very small loop, just a loop of the center conductor on the end of a piece of coax stuck on a broom handle,
Yes, but we
and
have to
feeding a.
explain this to the technician.
David, this sounds
Can
like
you
a
put me in
job.
touch with him?
David,
What,
this is
Ron?
a job for a small group of penguins.
Yeah. I mean, we recognize that if I or someone like me could get down there, we would be able to resolve it quite quickly. But we have to do we have to work with the personnel that are there and the expertise that is there.
It would be expensive to get down there.
Yes, quite. Well, it's just not happening. We can't get personnel down there for 2 years, is our understanding.
Well,
Accept it and move on.
if you know, I,
You want to make a field trip, Bob?
yes, absolutely. My bag's packed. I got a passport.
Hope you got your
I mean,
warm
the
Monday.
thing is, this is through an official NSF grant, so there actually is there's normally an official field season where people usually can go down and it's supported. So David's been down there, but right now because of they're actually they're doing a lot of logistical changes down in Antarctica and redoing McMurdo Station and all that stuff. So they basically said that no grantees like David or myself or anyone else can go down to the ice for at least 2 years. So that's why we're kind of in this situation. But yeah, David's normally we'd actually send somebody down.
Are they saying we're not gonna pay for that, or you can't come?
Cannot.
You can't, yeah, you cannot come.
Okay.
It's not even a matter of money. I mean, it may be a matter of money, but it's just they're too busy or something.
Anybody got a
If-
penguin suit?
But to me,
I understand your
it just
frustration,
seems,
Bob.
yeah, you know, you've got a receiver and it's connected to this antenna that's overloading. So all you need, I don't know what the logistics are, you know, it may be 900 feet in the air or it may be buried in the ice or something, but and I certainly know the conditions aren't quite as good as they are here, but a small loop of making a small loop antenna and connecting it to the receiver that's having the problem, and then having somebody turn the loop and find the null. And now you, of course, got two directions, but that's better than 360 degrees to try and figure out what the source is. Because if it's so loud, it seems like to me it must be
Local.
right there.
No, we're not going to resolve that now. So,
Well, yeah.
Well, if we had been smart, we would have left a sniffer, as we call it, down there. It's basically what you're talking about. But I mean, that's what I would take down there, and we'd be able to DF it quite easily, presumably. But that equipment is not there.
Well, like I say,
And,
but
and we have a hard enough time talking to the technician just to change cables for us, let alone build some piece of equipment.
So I bet you when this is all figured out, you'll find out that the head honcho down there has a space heater under his desk, and that's what's making the noise. So,
Oh, yeah.
it's UPS. Yeah.
or his Walkman or whatever it is.
This cappuccino
Oh.
machine.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I got a
Dave-
different topic
Dave-
for last word of this hour. In the
Dave,
spirit-
Dave, you can probably talk to the guy as well as I can, but I certainly would volunteer to try and work with the fellow via Zoom or emails or whatever to help you resolve this problem if I can be of any help, but that's all.
Thank you.
Rachel, can you let me in for just a moment here before
Yes,
you go?
I have a meeting with Dr. Zorman, so
In the spirit of make no small plans and keep a long time horizon, December 2032 is going to be an asteroid near pass. Hamsai should plan on monitoring it. Take a look at chat. Now, this is for real. That's all.
Yeah, I've been on this project for nearly 6 years now. That's not that far off.
Nope, this is news yesterday. This wasn't
Dave.
known the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
So make no small plans.
Dave, I'm thinking of going to Iceland for the eclipse.
Let's talk about it. Okay, I'm going to sign off then. Take care, everyone.
Ta-ta.
7 threes.
73.
73.
73, everybody.
73.
73.